your other co-host, Tony Borrego.
And this is the podcast known as Relatively Sound, the podcast that you put on repeat. Today, Tony and I are back to wrap up this month's album for album series. Last week, Tony and I discussed his pick for this month, which was Panic at the Disco's debut album, Fever You Can't Sweat Out. And this week, we're going to be talking about my suggestion of Young the Giant's third studio album, Home of the Strange, which, before I forget, got to pull out. Here is the album for our YouTube listeners. This is also going to be the thumbnail for the video.
Nice.
Really quick, before we start discussing the album, I chose this album, one, because when Tony told me that he was giving me Panic at the Disco's album, I knew I had to give him something that maybe was from a similar time period, something that was, maybe more on the pop side of things than the rock side. Only because I knew of that album enough to know that it wasn't a straightforward rock album. Even though Tony and I we've discussed now plenty of different types of bands and genres in the rock world on this podcast. But another reason is because, funny enough, both artists have released multiple albums on the same record label known as Fueled by Ramen. Both that Panic album and this Young the Giant album both came out on that record label. And it's a band that I really like. My little, background with them is that I got into them through Lindsay. Actually, right when I moved, they had released this album. They released it, I think, that summer I moved. And so I remember driving around with Lindsay, hearing the lead single, Something to Believe in, on the radio a lot. And I remember, too, when they started playing other tracks from the album, like Jungle Youth and Silver Tongue. And going back further, though, obviously I had first heard of them through their single Cough Syrup on their debut album. Tony, I don't know if you remember, that was a song Mom was really into when it came out.
Yeah, I remember hearing that a lot on the radio, VH1.
Familiar
with it.
The music video with like the pool and stuff.
Right,
back then, I wasn't a huge fan of it. It was a little.
You used to rag on that song all the time, and you gave Mom shit for it.
That's why I said I wasn't a fan of it. I'm definitely not backpedaling on that. But I will say I was too mean to it back then. But even today, it's still not my favorite song by them. I think there's plenty of better songs on that debut album. But the reason I chose this album, the third album, is because I think they've really grown with each album. And I think this album, Home of the Strange, has a bit more of that alternative indie rock element to it. It's not, even though it has a lot of clean production, it's actually a lot messier sounding than their debut album. Their debut is very clean. Its guitar tones are all kind of similar, and that's not a bad thing. And I do think there's some great songs, but I thought out of all of I think they have 5 albums out now. This is the one I think that you would groove to the most. I don't know if you had any more backstory besides knowing Cough Syrup. I think besides that, you probably didn't know it. You maybe have heard their song My Body before on the radio, because that came out slightly. I think that actually came out before Cough Syrup, but it wasn't as popular. But I'm sure if you heard it, you might have heard it once or twice. You might recognize it.
Maybe. I don't know, though. I'm pretty sure Cough Syrup is really the only thing I'm familiar with from the band. And I don't mind that one. It's catchy. It's lightweight, but it's catchy.
So you went into this kind of blind then, basically. Opposite of the Panic episode, because I actually knew most of the songs on the Panic episode. Or at least I'd heard them once before in my life. So, and maybe I'll get into more why I like this album as we're talking about it. But I want to hear your first thoughts and impressions on the album.
So I have a couple thoughts at first. And I will say, this album, I don't have a lot of statements to make about it. I think this album, what you see is what you get, or what you hear is what you get. And I like that. So one of the first things I noticed when listening to it is, holy shit, I can't keep track of the songs. They all are blending together. The second thing I noticed was, okay, all of these songs groove. Yeah, they groove. Definitely groove. And then one of the third things that I noticed, I don't know why I'm saying them as if these were in order of my thoughts, but kind of the other big thing that I had noticed is that these songs, even though they present themselves in kind of like a pop dancey sort of way, much like the Panic album, they're detailed songs. The way they're written, there's chord progressions with more than just four chords. There's a lot of dynamics to it. Um, Home of the Strange, the whole album is just filled with different like keyboard sounds and great guitar tones, and a lot of it is kind of they kind of scratch your brain a little bit, right, in a good way. Hits that spot. So those are some of my immediate thoughts. Is that this record sounds great. It's pleasurable to listen to, and it's kind of dancey, I guess. I don't know. Dance music and stuff like that. I don't know if I'm using those terms incorrectly, but it makes you bop.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think when this album came out, a lot of critics were like, "This is like their funkiest album." Um, it's not to me. To me, it's not quite on the level of like dance music as like Hot Thoughts from Spoon, which is another album we talked about. That one to me, even though maybe the rock moments are a little bit more rock, I think the dance moments are actually more dancey. I mean, there's a couple songs in here like Silver Tongue and Elsewhere that I think gets close to like First Caress on Hot Thoughts or um Can I Sit Next to You? But I think this album blends kind of that alternative indie rock sound more with the dance music. But yeah, um and there's some songs on their next album that kind of can maintain that similar sound, but up to this point this was for sure their at most like, dancey pop
Groovy
music.
kind
Yeah.
of. Right, right. Yeah. So I mean that kind of shows my cards right away that I like it. Um, but I think for me, I'm definitely curious on which songs that you like from the album, and I'm curious if you can guess which ones that I like from the album. Before we started this here, Rico had mentioned, the things he think I will like, I don't always like, and sometimes he may think I won't like something, but I do.
I'm really
Eh,
bad about that with everyone. With Lindsay too, like I remember when I was getting her into the Tragically Hip and um and Spoon even too, even though she knew Spoon before me, I'm the one that kind of went through all their albums because I'm the album person out of the two of us. And like I'd play her songs from both bands that I loved, and she's like, "These are okay." And then she would find songs from them like Grace 2 and Whisper. I listened to hear it, and she's like, "These are their best songs. Like, why weren't you playing me these?" Well, to be fair, I did play her Whisper. That was one of the first songs I played her from Hot Thoughts, and she liked it on her first listen, but that one like really grew on her. But yeah. So going off what I think you like from this album, I thought you would like some of the actually dancier songs because, like you mentioned, they're kind of groovy. The bass work and I think like the rhythm sections are tight. So immediately I thought you were gonna like something like Elsewhere. I thought you would actually really like Mr. Know It All because that's like Lindsay's least favorite on the album. She hates it, which means like I am someone that would like it way more than her. So I thought maybe you'd like that one for just kind of how different it is. I actually didn't think you would like some of the more straightforward rock ones like Jungle Youth or Something to Believe in. So I thought you would like something like Titus Was Born because it's got different parts. Um, And I have a feeling you really like something like Nothing's Over, which is my least favorite. But I thought you would like that one because it has like an intro that's like it has sections that don't ever come back into the song, which is kind of why I don't like it. But we can get more into that later. Um, so yeah, so I'm thinking you kind of like some of the groovier ones like Elsewhere. But then I also think you like some of the kind of more out there ones like Titus Was Born, Mr. Know It All.
So you didn't name my favorite yet. We'll save that though. We'll save that
Okay.
though. But we will go over the ones you mentioned because I think we were pretty much right about a lot of that. Um, to me, I kind of split the songs up into kind of three categories.
Okay.
You have your catchy songs. I know that's vague. You have your catchy songs, your straightforward songs where it's less kind of frills on the keyboards and then yeah, then you have your more artsy songs. Not artsy like they're prog or they're weird, but the ones that have kind of more interesting voicings on guitar,
Or
maybe different
acoustics and
structures.
electrics.
Exactly, exactly. You get
Yeah.
where I'm going. So some of the more straightforward ones, like Something to Believe in, like that one and Silver Tongue, those ones are kind of at the bottom for me.
And those are like the two biggest songs from this album.
Are they really? Okay.
Yeah, Something to Believe in was the first actually it wasn't the first single, America was, but Something to Believe in was the one that got the radio airplay. In fact, it was released May 10th, 2016, so a day after my birthday. And that was on the radio all the time. And then Silver Tongue was kind of a sleeper hit. They released that one like as the last single, and that one got a lot of play. And I think they close a lot of their concerts with it, if I'm not mistaken, nowadays.
Okay.
Um,
Well,
I can understand not liking Something to Believe in as much because it is a little bit more straightforward rock. Even though I really like, and actually when that one was released, I told Lindsay, I'm like, I like it, but not as much as some of the other stuff you showed me. And I ended up liking a lot of the other songs on this album over it. The Silver Tongue grew on me a lot. That one is just a fun, like that one is like the kind of fun dancey song where, yeah, the lyrics aren't super deep and the parts kind of repeat a lot, but I don't know, it's just kind of a fun song.
let's start with Silver Tongue then, because that is my least favorite.
On the whole album,
Yes.
wow.
So okay, and hear me out. Hear me out. So it is fun. It is the most fun song. It is infectiously fun, but that's kind of the problem to me. It's kind of annoying. It's the smooth sailing of the album. It's almost kind of like the Chili Peppers a little bit with the rhythmic vocals, the simple chorus, and the chorus does hit every time. But yeah, there's just not a lot of substance in there for me that really sticks with me.
Mhm.
I will say this one actually does have a standout line to me, and lyrics will be something we talk about later. I do like the "I'm addicted to pennies, but what can I do?" And
So
I like that just with not even thinking about the other lyrics without context. I just like that line.
really funny, really quick. When this song was like released, I remember people online, and I was one of those people. He first says, I'm addicted to madness," right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I thought, and a lot of other people thought, he said, "I'm addicted to mayonnaise." And then people thought that when he said pennies, it sounded
No.
like panties.
Oh, okay. That's better than
So
I thought you were gonna say. So
yeah, so both of them were kind of like, I thought both lines were like really weird, but then when you read them, they're like, oh yeah, no, these are actually like decent lyrics. Like I just misheard them as something completely insane.
I'm addicted to mayonnaise. What can I do?
Yeah.
Okay,
I do love mayonnaise, so
well, so beyond that, to me, I don't know. This song is just it's really catchy, but that's all it is to me. It's not bad at all. I will say, and I'm gonna probably mention this a lot in our future episodes. Is I learned this from the Dead Milkman's podcast. The best song to get so this song Silver Tongue kept getting stuck in my head even when I didn't want it intrusively. So the best song to get a song out of your head is definitely Lowrider. So thanks to this album, I have a new love for Lowrider. Thank you, War. But anyways, off topic. So a song like Something to Believe in, like that was actually one of the ones I thought I liked more at first because it's got kind of like two hooks, It's got like the chorus, post-chorus sort of deal going.
Is there a reason why I'm still awake? And he says, I've got you written in a black book by the railroad.
there's that intro kind of, which I think is like the bridge of the song too.
Right. It's
The
kind of
minor
interesting.
chords kind of, and like the chanting, like the ooh, I like that part.
Like that part's okay. But the two parts after is where it's like energetic, it's catchy. And I do like that there was a lot of chord changes in it. That was kind of surprising. But what I found with this song and some of the other ones is that like it's not until you hit like the second verse where it picks up, and that's normally where like the overdubs are. So like in the second verse of this one, you have like these guitars, like I think they're like two lines harmonized doing eighth notes. That like really fills out the section, and I'm like, okay, this is now I understand the verse.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, you're already halfway through the song. You've already heard the chorus, and so I don't know. So for me, that one doesn't really do too much in the long run. But on the album, in passing, it's totally fine. Not bad. But I don't love it for a second song on the album. I feel like it doesn't really. I feel like America is a strong opening because it's like something to believe in if it was just stronger overall.
Are you paying attention? I was searching for something as I watched you.
But don't you think because America's it's a kind of bit of like a slow burn of a song, you needed a more kind of straightforward rock line as your second song?
But I feel like America is kind of a straightforward rock song.
I will agree. I much prefer America. America's probably it's top 3 on the album for sure. America's one of my favorites. I've always really liked that song. But I mean, so what are your
I
thoughts
have
on
mixed
America?
feelings. Mixed feelings. The chorus is super catchy in a good way, and it's a little bit of a longer melody, which I appreciate. Where like Silver Tongue is like one line. I don't know. The lyrics don't really grab me. I don't really love songs when they like say America in it. Maybe that's just a pet peeve. I can't really knock a song for saying America.
Well, and really quick, just to give you a little context, this album, it's definitely more of a slight concept than actually their most recent album that came out last year. But this album was inspired by some of the band members' immigration history and their identities being an American. Lead singer Samir, he's a first generation American of Indian heritage. And America, the song title, was actually inspired by an author, Franz Kafka's unfinished novel with the same name, the same
With a
title
K as well?
America, yeah, misspelled with a K, yeah.
Okay. I will say, yeah, I it wasn't until last night where I was watching some live videos that I realized that they were not white.
Yeah, and like Home of the Strange, and even the album cover, if you look at the album cover, it's like a ton of people with like flags of different, like flags of different. They're like made up. They're not real. They're not real countries' flags, but there's that even the title "Home of the Strange," I think is supposed to allude to like feeling like somewhere that you travel to isn't your home. Feeling like an outsider.
Oh, okay.
Now their most recent album that came out last year is called, I believe it's called American Bollywood. Is that right? Hold on. I just want to get the right name. Yeah, American Bollywood. And that album actually is like made up of 4 different parts. They released the album in 4 EPs with like 4 songs each. And that album definitely has a lot more of a narrative of his story of growing up and leaving India and things like that. So this album is definitely done more loosely. Like he definitely, I think, as the band matured over time, he kind of started honing in on narratives that he wanted to write and sing about in their songs.
Okay, that does help. That does.
But
help with the
I will say on
context.
this album, like he's starting to do it more so than their first 2 albums. But I can see like not grasping that on if you don't do like enough research.
Right. And to quickly just kind of wrap up America there, I kind of thought about it more. I think what I like about America is kind of the blend of instrumentation because there's like this really thick bass, kind of almost like a Cold War Kids song. It kind of reminded me of.
Yeah, I wonder, you think it's a synth bass, right?
Yeah, it's got to be some sort of synth bass, I think.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, if you know the Core Kids song Relief.
Yes, exactly what I was thinking. Yes. That with the acoustic, and there's like a very modestly played like slide guitar lead.
The little.
Right. That is nice. There's some really soft like backups harmonies later on. I think my problem is that when it does get catchy with the chorus, there's not really a big enough change in the music for me.
Yeah, the
You know,
song
where
kind
it
of.
kind of makes the song, which is only 4 minutes, but it's one of the longer songs. It kind of makes it maybe feel a little more repetitive than
Yeah.
ideal. But
So do you like it as an opener though?
yeah, I think it's not bad for an opener. Especially because it does sound like there's some direction to it, you know, like the band feels like, you know, that's very descriptive there.
Yeah.
So yeah, so what were the other ones you're talking about? So,
I thought
you-
you would like Elsewhere because it's kind of groovy.
I was afraid of the love that you asked for. You asked for. You are the light in my eyes. You're the answer.
yes, so Elsewhere, I do like it, and this is when I did make the connection. It does kind of remind me of Hot Thoughts from Spoon, like
Yeah.
the whole album, where it's kind of a little darker sounding, but it's like it's groovy, it is dancey, and also at this point too, I started to realize, oh, this guy's a pretty good singer.
Yes, I think the strongest thing about this band is Samir, their lead vocalist. He has one of those voices to me that when it's clean, it's smooth. When it's falsetto, it's tight. And when he adds a little distortion to it, it sounds great. Like when he does at the end of America, when he's just kind of yelling America and he's got a little bit of that grit in the voice, perfect. On the chorus of Silver Tongue, when he says, I got that silver tongue, and he adds a little bit of like emphasis on it, love it. I think he's a super underrated singer. I don't know if he has the range of someone like a Brandon Flowers, but I think that his vocals, like the tone, is just as good.
I love how you applaud Brandon Flowers as being like an amazing singer.
Okay, or like Bono.
Okay,
those are my
Bono. There we
favorite.
go. There we go.
Because I'm not gonna go crazy and like compare him to like Freddie Mercury, you know.
Right. But no, I think this guy's voice is great. It was this song where I'm like, holy shit, yeah, this is one of my favorite vocal performances of the album. Particularly, I can't remember where it's at in the song, where he does like, doesn't he do like a really cool like vocal crack?
So you like that, yeah? In the bridge, he does like a. Are you talking about like the little squeal?
Yeah, like it starts kind of low and he like kind of goes up a little.
Oh, maybe that's not the part. Because there's a part where it's like an instrumental, and he just does like it's like he's not even doing vocal. He's not even singing words. He just does like a little. It is like a vocal crack. Lindsay hates it though. It's a little cringe, but I like it. I don't think it takes away from the song.
No, yeah, I don't know where it is in the song, but yeah, you're right. I think
His
it is
vocals
more
do
of a
kind of get
squeal-
louder
squeal.
during certain sections.
Yeah, no, but I liked it. I don't know. I thought it was fun. I mean, if your music's gonna be a little bit more on the repetitive side, then I think a song like this, the ad libs really work
Yeah.
towards it. So you better make them interesting.
And there's some cool drum fills that happen only once or twice. And then I think the bass line on Elsewhere is just really. To
Yeah,
me,
the
it's like-
syncopation of it, the placement of it with the kick is great. I did write that in my notes there.
yeah,
Um,
Elsewhere has always been a favorite of both me and Lindsay.
Plus, in the second verse, he starts to sing like more dramatically, which
Yeah.
is cool. You don't really get that on the rest of the album as much.
Yeah, he like kind of goes like an octave higher, even like during the chorus too. The second time around.
Right. Well, he does like that low vibrato sort of thing
Mm-hmm.
to some of it. So yeah, Elsewhere was one of my first favorites, for sure. Also, another one of my first favorites, but now it's actually in the bottom half of the album for me, was Titus Was Born, which I know you had mentioned.
Back again. Oh, all the things he did see. Life is a dream, drifting at sea. It's so hard to believe.
Well, I mentioned it because when I was trying to figure out what song I was going to cover for this episode, you suggested something like Titus Was Born, which made me think, oh, maybe he's singling that one out because he liked it. But I was a little
which was
iffy.
true at the time.
Which I was a little iffy if you were. So what do you make of Titus Was Born? Why did you like it on first listen, and what made you not like it as much on repeated listens?
So I really do like that first section. You know, it has a defined melody through the guitar playing, like the picking, which is a nice guitar part. And I think they do a really good job at fleshing out that section. Like the vocal melody follows the guitar, but it varies away from it, and then it kind of like harmonizes with it, for lack of better words. Which I like, because to sing the whole line's kind of dumb, but to sing with it is great because it is a strong melody.
Mm-hmm.
The instrumentation is like not abrasive. It's kind of cloudy, you know, with the ambience,
Yeah.
the ambiance. But my problem with it is that the other section of the song kind of loses me.
And because the song does have two distinct sections. Like it kind of changes the rhythm, and then
Like the second half of the song.
yeah, where it builds and the drums. Now I don't know if you noticed during that second part when the vocals come in, it's actually the drummer singing it. It's not Samir. Their drummer Francois is his name. He does most of the backing vocals you hear on almost any of their songs. He actually does like a lot of the chorus of or the post chorus of America. There's a section in America where he's like, you really hear him loud in the mix.
I retract what I said. Now I'm going to sound like I'm fake and cheating. I did write on my notes, actually. It was for this song that I did put a question mark. Is there another singer in the band?
Yeah. In that second half where the song, before it gets to the drum louder part, it's Francois singing, not Samir.
I don't know if I noticed on America, though. But
it's
this
not
one
as
I did
distinct.
write
America,
down.
it's more like backing vocals. Yeah.
Okay. And it's not that the second half is bad. It's just the second half is kind of generic pop to me.
It goes a little bit, yeah. It's like it's more like modern pop, but with hints of like 80s pop with like some of the synths, which not my favorite. When it comes to pop, 80s pop is by far my least favorite. I guess other than like maybe like 2010s pop, but yeah, I get what you're saying. I do think I prefer the first half of Titus Was Born than the second half, but I do like how it builds.
Yeah, I mean, like the first like 2.5 minutes, which is half of the song, I do really enjoy, but the whole thing, you know, the whole shebang.
Yeah. But it's a nice midway song, I think. You know, it's basically in half of the album because the album's 11 songs. It's number 6, you know.
Yeah, it does give a good like break from some of the other songs, which is also probably why I liked it. So now that you've had a teaser of kind of some confirmed, yeah, these are the ones I like, don't like. Do you think now you could guess my favorite?
I'm thinking now maybe your favorite is the title track.
No, and I wouldn't even say title track is like top 4.
Oh, title track is like top 3 for me.
Really?
Then is it? Because the only other song we haven't talked about is it Art Exhibit?
Yes.
That blows my mind.
You wore those pearls we found on Champs-Élysées, framed like the
Art Exhibit is so good.
I
so
thought it was
many
going to be
reasons.
one of your least favorite.
Why?
No joke. Because I thought it was going to be, not that you don't like slow songs, but I thought it was going to be too slow for you, especially because a lot of even Titus Was Born picks up, and Art Exhibit does pick up, but I thought during that middle section with the guitar and the whistling, I thought you were going to find it a little cringe myself. I don't, but I thought maybe you thought it would be. Yeah, because it's kind of Art Exhibit, that middle part to me is definitely kind of more 2010s era of like pop music, you know, or radio music a little bit.
I mean, yes.
Not like Dance Joy Riptide, but you know, like it's like even when they did the song.
Funny you mentioned that. We'll get to that later.
Okay, because even when they did the song like in their acoustic, like he played it like he does it on the ukulele. Actually, the song there might be ukulele in the song in the studio version too.
It might be the main like I just assumed it was like a guitar with a capo or something.
Well,
but...
Samir is credited for ukulele on the album, so it has to be for Art Exhibit. Yeah.
Right. Well,
but yeah, why do you love the song so much? I'm surprised.
So first off, it took me a minute to kind of figure it out, like what it sounded like. It reminds me of Overcooked, like the music.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I mean,
that kind of
it's
like
hard because
ukulele
usually
acoustic.
Lindsay and I are yelling at each other when we play that game.
Yeah, so you take out the frustration.
Yeah.
And just you know when you start the game, when you're picking your cute character, it reminds me of that.
I can see that.
Right, and then it has a really nice sung melody where he does a strong vocal and then a very high, like you said, like a nice tight falsetto. Sounds great. And then hear me out on this. When it transitions, I don't know the best way to explain it. like about a minute in, where it starts to get a little more dramatic sounding.
The I'm on my way part.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
And then the genius of pain. Is that what he says?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that right there. It then switches and starts to sound like a Coldplay song to me.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah.
With kind of like, once again, the voicings. I know they do a lot of different tunings in Coldplay, and
Yeah, like especially first album Parachutes. Yeah.
right. So I'm like, oh, holy shit. So Overcooked, fan. Coldplay can be a fan. And then it does rock out. Well, first it goes into that like real falsetto-y bit as well, which that kind of almost sounds like shades of Josh Homme. Throwing out buzzwords at this point.
Okay, that I wouldn't have made the comparison, but I can see in a world. Yeah.
Right. Well, like especially like something like title track from like Clockwork, where it's
Yeah,
like
for sure. Yeah.
more of that.
That one has all the strings and whatnot. Yeah.
Right. And then you get 2 minutes in, and then you get the part you just described, the big kind of crunchy riff with the whistling. And now that you mention it, yes, it would be cringe, except the drums make that section. Like, they're not that complicated, but there's just something about it. It just sounds like he's just banging the drum. Like,
Oh, especially when the drums are not very apparent in the first half of the song.
right. It's just such a contrast that it just works so well. And then so after they do that, then they go straight back into the first section again, I guess the verse, except with the added drum.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, it just works so good. It's catchy, it's sophisticated, I guess. I like the picking on the uke. Yeah, it's a unique sounding song to me. Like, I know I just said it sounds like several different things, but like as a song, I can't think of another song that this sounds directly like.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just. So, do you think it fits the album?
I will say it definitely was a shift when it came on, especially after Silver Tongue.
Silver Tongue for sure. Yeah.
But I think it was needed. Because if
I
you
mean-
took this song out, then this album really would be a blur.
Yeah, because I mean, it's kind of like Titus was one coming after Jungle Youth, which is like the other kind of radio rock kind of song.
Right. So,
But I'm
Yeah.
glad you liked it. I mean, I thought this would be one of the ones that we only talk about a little bit,
no, this is definitely my favorite.
It's not near the top for me, but I very appreciate. I mean, there's really the only song on here that I'm kind of indifferent on is Nothing's Over, but I do like Art Exhibit a lot.
Well-
It is a nice song to kind of piece out to.
Yeah. And Nothing Over, which follows it, I really like that one too.
Nothing's over. I'll grow up when I'm older. God only knows what I would do.
Oh,
Which-
surprising.
You kind of maybe thought maybe I would because you don't like
Because
it.
I don't like it. Yeah, it's the opposite.
I will say though, it does take a little bit to get into the song. It starts off a little,
Like kind of dark. It's weird.
and it's kind of like the wind sound effect, kind of
Mhm.
like very intentional ambiance. But when it gets to that main section where it's just the chorus, what I don't even know what he says. So he just says nothing's over in some other lines.
Well, then
But
he
it's-
says the line that I thought you would like, where he does the "God only knows" line.
I can't think of how he sings it right now.
The God only knows what I don't know if it's supposed to be like a direct homage to God only knows. I mean, there's no like songwriting credits to the Beach Boys on the album, but it's in that chorus that you're talking about after where he sings the title of the song.
Okay, yeah. Yes, I did remember him saying God only knows. But yes, it's so why I like it a lot compared to some of the other songs is I think it's the vocals equally match like the funkiness of the music,
yeah.
and it's a catchy melody, it's feel good, and it has a great contrast from like the darker sections of the song. I think it also does sound different than some of the rest of the album. I feel like this one has a bouncing around structure, but it doesn't feel so like cut and paste as as America, for example, not to rag on it.
My only thing with it is that
Isn't
to
there
me,
sitar in it too?
I am looking at the album credits, and
Yeah, it sounds like
um,
a sitar solo, and it like sounds swirly.
I don't see anyone credited for sitar,
Uh,
but I'm fairly sure there's sitar on their most recent album, so there very well could be. Or maybe
eh,
it's just a guitar with a really weird pedal or
with
something.
yeah, something going on. Like that's a nice touch, especially like when they add all the reverb to it. I like the really crunchy guitars that's in like the after like the first chorus. I think it's kind of like that whole whistling riff section of Art Exhibit.
To
But
me, it's just like you have the first part, which is weird, and then you have once that like the rest of the band kicks in. To me, the rest of the whole song is just the chorus repeated over and over and over. That's my only problem with the song. The music does have like the dynamics that you're talking about, but I feel like lyrically the song could have been more interesting than it ended up being. Because like to me, Nothing's Over is like his take on like what happens when you die, and like is there like a heaven afterwards? Um, but it also could be like what happens after like a relationship like falls apart or something like that. But I just feel like it's like a verse with the intro and then a chorus, and then to me it's just the chorus repeated a couple times with the music kind of changing over it. So it just feels a little all over the place for me. That's my only critique of the song, I guess, which is why it's probably my least favorite.
it is all over the place, and maybe I appreciate that a little bit. Compare it like when you put it next to the rest of the songs. But you're right, and I do like the chorus section a lot. So the fact that they repeat that section
Yeah, I
compared
mean,
to a different one,
yeah, if that's your favorite, your favorite choruses on the album, I can see why you would love the song.
but even if you listen to the ending of it with the guitar or whatever the heck that is, like picking it out, like that's a cool little piece alone. Where it
Yeah,
just
it has really
ends
cool
on him and the
textures.
guitar. So yeah, that I don't know, that's an exciting one for me, but it's not a perfect song by any means. Um,
I'm
yeah, I
curious.
mean,
I'm curious what you thought of Jungle Youth because I have a little story for behind it.
That's all I remember. And then everything's black. Sounds so familiar, someplace hot in my soul. Hello, transmission. Now you're in control.
you want to start with the story?
Yeah, I can start with the story. So it, we have to go back in time a little bit. After the band's second album, um, which was called Mind Over Matter, which was in 2013. No, I'm sorry. The album was released in 2014. They ended up in 2015, the year after, they did a record store day EP. It was a vinyl that we have. It has two songs. It has what I believe was probably a B-side from that second album that was released for the first time ever. Because I think they performed it live and did an acoustic version of the song. And then they did the title track from that second album, Mind Over Matter, but it was called Reprise, and it's kind of like a live in studio version of the song with like backing like a chorus of backup singers, and the instrumentation's a little bit more like organic instrumentation because the album version is a little on the poppier side. And both those two songs, that EP, I believe both songs, I know for sure the Reprise, but they were produced by none other than Brendan Benson.
What?
And then when this album came out, Brendan Benson joined the band on stage, and one of the songs he played live with them was Jungle Youth. He joined them on guitar, I think, and maybe even backing vocals.
That's cool.
So for someone like me who loved Brendan Benson, when I saw, because I think I saw when that he went on stage with them during one of their live shows, I was like, that's so random. What is the connection? And I did some digging, and I was like, oh, he produced that EP, the 2-song EP for Record Store Day. And I love that version of that song, Mind Over Matter. In fact, that version of the song is more popular on Spotify than the album version. In fact, if you go to their Spotify page, it is their number one played song. and it's the reprise version. It's not the album version.
Damn.
And you can kind of tell because Brendan Benson, even though he dabbles with all types of kind of different music, like he's someone that you could tell likes to record organic instrumentation, right? Acoustic guitars, real live drums, bass, and yeah. So I will say it's not my favorite song on the album because the song itself has nothing to do with Brandon Benson, but it makes me appreciate the song a little bit more. It also was featured on one of the Madden video games.
Oh, funny.
Yeah. So I'm sure
I could see that.
Dad has a copy where if you play it, you could hear it in the background.
Perfect. Yeah, the lore runs deep.
Yeah.
So yeah, with Jungle Youth, it's one of those ones that like it's kind of like Silver Tongue, where like part of me wants to kind of like be like, it's not that good, but I think more so than Silver Tongue, I'm like, okay, yeah, this one's pretty good still. Like there's not as much depth to it as some of the other songs, but like it kind of starts off like I'm like, okay, this is kind of like a throwaway Queens of the Stone Age riff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But by the time we get to the first chorus, second verse, honestly, it's like the second verse where he starts with "I woke in a fever, taste the blood in my mouth." Every time that line comes on, I'm like, all right, they've hooked me. They've hooked me. The chorus kind of feels a little bit kind of like Chili Peppers as well, kind of with like the vocal melody kind of thing they're doing. I think the one problem for me with this song is that like the chorus and the verse might as well be the same section. I'm saying the chorus and the verse, but I really could not even tell you where the chorus starts.
Yeah, there's not a huge chordal difference in the progressions.
But it's just one where like the groove's heavy, the production's really thick on it. What kind of keeps it from being one that I like more is that the guitars are a little less defined. Some other songs, there's like several guitar parts, whether they're acoustic, electric.
Yeah.
Some more textures. This one's more just here's the riff as opposed to here's the texture.
Yeah.
Right, but the energy, I think I think this song is as done as well as it could have been done.
Yeah.
Which that alone is worth saying something. So I do want to go to the song before it, Mr. Know-It-All, because you thought I would like this one.
And even though you sit together, you feel so alone. It's such a tragedy when people hardly speak. Try to live up to the person you pretend to be.
But you said it's Lindsay's least favorite?
By far, yeah. I remember the first time she heard it, she was like, I do not like this song. Like she thought so she kind of put it, she was like, there's some bands that we love, like Ben Folds and Bare Naked Ladies, where when she listens to it, she thinks like the music is not mature. Like it's like, especially when it comes to like synth sounds and stuff. And like certain chord progressions, sometimes she just finds them to be like kind of childish. And that's what I think she thought of this song. Especially like a part where like when he sings about Mozart in the song and they do that little background piano that sounds like a what does it sound like? What are like the really old timey pianos?
Like was like a harpsichord or something?
Yeah,
or?
yeah, it sounds like a harpsichord, exactly. Yeah. And so those little details in Mr. Know-It-All that I don't think she loved.
Okay, I just listened to that. Yeah, I don't know if I caught that on my first listens.
Yeah. So I originally like wasn't a fan of it either, just because I think when we listen to new music, sometimes we kind of vibe off each other's experiences. But over the years, this one's really grown on me. I actually really like Mr. Know-It-All. It's not like top 3 in the album for me, but I totally dig it now. I used to not dig it as much, but I like the dynamics. I really like how the first chorus there's no drum. It's not the full instrumentation. But then the second and third time around, it's the full instrumentation. And I actually think lyrically it's one of the better songs too, where it's like, it's very easy to figure out what they're singing about. They're singing about like people who disguise themselves to be cooler and more knowledgeable than they really are. Right. And it has some funny lines like he listened to Bowie. People thought he was cool. Or he listened to Mozart. People thought he was smart. But then like the overall message in the chorus, like, staring at his phone, even together, you feel so alone, like I think it has relatable lyrics. And it's got some weird parts, some weird synth parts, some weird backing vocals, like the line where he's like, he's fucking it up, or whatever line that is. Like it's a weird song. I think it's the weirdest one on the album, but it kind of makes me appreciate it because it's out there.
I don't know if I would say it's the weirdest song on the album. I mean, I think the overdubs are. Well, let me back this up first with my experience listening to the song. At first, I was excited for it because Primus has a song called "Mr. Know-It-All," and I know they're gonna sound nothing alike. But when you see a song that someone else you like has written, you get excited for it. And then I started listening to it, and then I heard those kind of out there synths that were like very, very, like kind of like kind of cheesy sounding, but they're just really quirky. And I actually like that. I'm like, okay, this is cool. It's in your face, but it's nice. But then the lyrics started. And it was, it started with he was listening to Bowie. He thought he was cool. Like, at first, I related to that line because I thought about when David Bowie did pass, and then everyone at school started wearing Bowie t-shirts.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, none of you guys listen to Bowie. I didn't either. So I didn't put on a t-shirt, but I remember getting kind of peeved by that. So I was like, LOL, this is great. But then I quickly wanted to dislike the lyrics. And I'm going to be honest, it's purely out of spite. I think maybe during that time you had already started ragging on the Panic album for being cringe. And I was like, well, this song could be cringe too, and stuff. No, I do agree. There are some of my favorite lyrics off the album. Because for me, I don't really connect with this album lyrically. There's not very many lines that I think are like stand out. And there's really no like really strong meanings that get me or like really big imagery. If anything, it's more so the delivery of them that sells it to me.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that, especially for this type of record. Like to me, I think even the cringier moments of the Panic album, I think the lyrics are a little more maybe interesting or creative. Which I see some people like you probably are like, well, creative and cringe is not better than whatever this album's doing. But besides that, though, it actually did grow on me a bit more. I had mixed feelings, but it is one of my favorites now. And I think part of it is just because it's just got some cool guitar work. Like, it's simple, feel-good guitar work. Like, there's like kind of chord stabs that are like very audible and like kind of sharp, but they're not like abrasive. Like, the production is really great on this song. And something too about it that is kind of cool, and let me know if you agree with it. It's kind of like the bridge section, and once again, I have a hard time kind of isolating each section by itself in my head. But there's like a part which I think would be the bridge where it kind of reminds me of Super Soaker from Kings of Leon, kind of with like the chord progression.
While you're talking, let me see if I can find that part you're talking about.
So, I mean, regardless, I think this one sounds cool. It's kind of simple, straightforward, not too long, but it definitely stands out in its own place from the rest of the songs. And I think the only really downside is because it's so poppy, I think it will get old pretty quick. But that being said, though, I think there is more substance to it than Silver Tongue or Something to Believe In.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, and I can hear the little bit of the Kings of Leon Super Soaker vibes for sure.
Right, which that is my favorite off that their album Mechanical Bull. So
yeah, we might cover that album down the road as a album appreciation. As we're not really huge fans of that band, but for some reason we both really click with that album.
Right.
But yeah, I can see that. But yeah, I agree. Like I think there's more to the song than Something to Believe In, or maybe even lyrically more than like Elsewhere. Even though Elsewhere is a really vibey song, as you would say, like the lyrics are a little bit maybe more, up for discussion of what they could be about. Where Mr. Know-It-All is pretty straightforward, but in a good way. You can relate to it. Now I gotta figure out why you were doing some slander on Home, the title track, the final track, Home of the Strange, because I love that song. It's also not one of Lindsay's favorite either, though.
Didn't get your number, couldn't catch your name, but you got me under, girl, you got me tamed.
Well, okay, right off the bat, this is one where I feel bad for saying it's not one of my favorites. It just hasn't stuck with me. That's purely the only reason. Okay, it starts off sounding like a commercial for maybe like Rock Band or something, or for maybe like a snowboarding video game. Like it just has that vibe where it's like, okay, here's the energetic rock song. But it does rock out. It does rock off. The bass goes off, especially at the end, and the drums are there to match too. I think my only critiques would be that it's maybe a little bit too short and to the point for a closer. If this was earlier on the album or placed differently, I could be okay with this being short and sweet because
See,
I don't
I
think the
like
song needs to be long. But it feels odd for a closer. Like this is the rockest song, and it's gonna only go on for 2.5 minutes, and then just be like, "Bye, we're out of here."
Those are sometimes my favorite closers. I always bitch and complain about closers that are like ballads or super long songs. And another example of a song that I feel like kind of is like this is actually Brendan Benson's closer on My Old Familiar Friend, Borrow. It's kind of a short song. It's to the point. It's not as rocking as this one, but it's like, it's got a lot of good energy. And again, it's not a song you listen to and go like, oh, this should be the last song on the album. Like it doesn't seem like it's fitting. But I don't know. It just ends the album perfectly. He has another song too. His closer to the alternative to love, Between Us. Another really good song that closes the album that it doesn't seem like a closer, but it just works.
Well, to be fair, I feel like Borrow is a little bit more similar to the other songwriting on the album. So I feel like it at least ties it well. Where I feel like this one doesn't really. This is maybe the one that doesn't fit the album the most.
I don't know. I think it's like if they took the bass work and drum work of Elsewhere, but had more of the energy of a Something to Believe in or Jungle. To me, it's like a Jungle Youth and Something to Believe in, but with a faster tempo, which to me would have made those songs slightly better. I think both those songs are decent songs. The tempo is a little too on the slow side for me. Home of the Strange, the title track, I just love the speed of it. I love the bass, just seems like it flows better. Samir can really do some great vocal delivery there. It has a little bit of the audio unique backing vocals, the eyes, and the kind of
which kind of sounds like it's supposed to be like an organ. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah,
it's like the vocals are kind of like taking the space for that,
which I like. That's what I like about it too.
Yeah, and okay, now that you kind of explain, I do see how it could be kind of like a hybrid of maybe some of the songs, but I don't know. I don't think it's bad, and I think I'll like it more. And it also kind of feels like if we were to compare it to another album we've done on the podcast, more something of Odd Soul type, the direction of it, of that kind of, I don't know when Odd Soul came out, but like there's like that sound of like 2000s rock where it's not like classic rock, but it's kind of like that feel good, like.
Yeah, I think it was 20. I think it was 2010s.
2010s, okay.
So, yeah.
So, yeah, it's not bad. It just hasn't stuck with me. Once again, maybe it's because it's at the end. I was gonna say it might make a good second to last song, but I think Nothing's Over is a pretty good second to last song.
So, is there a song you think should close the album out?
I don't know. I'm never good about rearranging track listings. I know that's one of your superpowers, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think I guess I could have put something better, and if I can't put something better, then maybe I should just stay quiet. But
I mean, the only other song too I want to know your opinion about, because we've pretty much covered all the songs other than Repeat.
We keep spinning, I'll repeat. Show me love, fill my cup, the world's not empty. It's how you want it to be.
yes.
Wait, so Repeat was the one song that probably grew on me the most, other than Mr. Know It. Mr. Know It All has grown on me the most like lately. But I remember when this album came out, Nothing's Over and Repeat to me just were like, maybe because like lyrically I thought they were too similar, but like I don't know, something about both of those songs that didn't do much for me. I was more into like the catchier songs like Silver Tongue, Home of the Strange, even Elsewhere. But Repeat has become one of like my top 3 in the album. I love Repeat. But I have a feeling it's like middle of the pack for you.
It's a hard one to place. So right off the bat, let me just say, I don't think there's anything bad about the song. But I also wouldn't say it's not one of my top 3. Yeah. So when the song starts off, It reminded me of something, and I still don't feel confident with what it reminds me of. At first, I was like, "Does it sound like Riptide?"
No,
And I listened
absolutely
to it,
not.
and I'm like, "Not really." I'm getting there, but not really. And then
Our
I
exhibit
listened.
would sound the most like it because of the uke.
Actually, shut up. So, and then I thought about it more, and I'm like, no. I think if I had to pick a song, it sounds like it would be "I Will Possess Your Heart."
What?
Like the vibe of it. Like it doesn't. I'm not saying the melody, but like it starts off with like the strummy acoustic, with like the clean vocal melody.
Oh yeah,
over
the
it.
strum acoustic. That's all over. I will possess your heart.
Oh no, wrong song, wrong song. No, wait.
Okay, yeah. I'm like, wait. I think
I fucked up. I fucked up.
I think you
What is-
understand why I had a confused look on my face.
Wait. I will follow you into the dark.
That,
Sorry.
I assume that's what you're talking about, but
Okay.
I wanted you to figure it out on your own. Okay, yes.
Sorry. Okay, two
That's-
long song
yeah.
titles with very similar names. Okay, and you're giving Panic at the Disco a hard time. So, anyways, yeah. So, yeah, okay, I was like, it's kind of bothering me that it sounds like something. It doesn't sound bad. But, so it sounds something kind of like that, which wasn't a great sign. Because, I mean, those songs are good and all, but they're not like ones where I'm like, oh yeah, when I hear it.
Mm-hmm.
But the song does go places, which I appreciate. And it goes places organically. The drums come in, and then you start to get the groove going. I'm like, okay, sounds like the rest of the album now. Fits in. And that like vocal melody they do, it's catchy, it's hooky, but it's not like something like America, something like Silver Tongue, where it's like a little too catchy, maybe for its own good. And then my favorite part of the song is really just those backup vocals. We just move, we're just moving.
Yeah.
Like the falsetto on that, it just sounds great. It gets stuck in my head. And even when it does like the pause and it's just the vocals doing "we keep spinning, we just keep spinning." Like when I heard that, I'm like, "Oh God, this is kind of cheesy."
See, that's
Not
like
a
my
fan.
favorite part of the song.
But then it kicks into the drums, going, like double time now.
Yeah, that's my
And
favorite
I'm
part of
like,
the whole album. Maybe is the double time on the drums.
the whole album. Okay, it's definitely a very strong moment on the album.
Yeah, it's just I love when songs do that. Because like if the song would have kept the same pace the whole time, I think the song would have been more forgettable.
Oh,
Or would have been
100%.
forgettable. But like adding in those drums, and it's just literally the tempo. That's it. It's not like there's not a different time signature or anything. It's just the drums pick up the speed, and the rest of the instrumentation, the guitars, electric and acoustic, the bass, just kind of
Yeah.
it makes the song flow really nicely.
And I think what's cool too is after they do that, it's pretty organic sounding how they add some more like overdubs and stuff. And then they kind of end it by smoothing it out, where they kind of back off and the acoustic chords kind of ring a little louder, a little more space. And then I think the drums drop out at the end. Something that I didn't really notice for a little bit, but it's at the very end as well as just kind of throughout the ending bit. It's kind of like that distorted scream you hear. It
Yeah.
kind of sounds like a scream, but it's quite distorted and kind of back in the mix a little bit. But that was pretty cool though.
So overall, it seemed like you enjoyed this album. Is that correct? I mean, I know it's probably not. It doesn't rival anything that we've done on the podcast, like "Darkness on the Edge of Town" or "Recovering Satellites," but it seemed like you enjoyed it maybe a little bit more than I actually thought you were going to.
Yeah, I think I did enjoy it a little more than I thought I was going to as well. I mean, I didn't know much about the band.
Yeah, it was more
so
shot
I
in the
didn't
dark.
have a reference. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put it up with those big boy albums you had just mentioned. I would probably put it's tough because the vibes, like as far as just listening to it and enjoying it, I definitely would put it along like something like Odd Soul and Hot Thoughts. Like it kind of is in that territory. But I think Odd Soul, the writing is a lot more detailed and stronger. And with Hot Thoughts, I would also say the same, although I would say there's definitely some moments on Hot Thoughts that aren't as good as some moments on this album. I haven't listened to Hot Thoughts in a while, though, so I'm going to need to think about that. But
Yeah, put them back to back.
Right. But yeah, I do like this one a lot. I always forget what we call it, but to vinyl or not to vinyl or
Yeah, would you? You see this? You walk into Silver Platters, and I've seen this actually at my local record store a lot before. Actually, this is one of the ones I see more often than some of their others. Would you? And it has, let's say it's like $23. Would you buy it?
$23. Is it 23 or 23.99?
$23.99. But
Gr-
you buy it, and it looks like this.
Right. Shut up and take my money. Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't know what they call it, but to me this is like taffy colored.
Taffy, okay. Yeah,
It
yeah.
just has those like taffy looking colors.
Those like
flavors.
soft, kind of creamy colors.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a weird color combination because the album cover has a lot of different colors, so maybe that's why they went with the tritone. But yeah, it's a pretty nice looking vinyl.
Yeah, yeah. If the price was reasonable, yeah, I would definitely pick it up. It's a fun one to listen to. Like, I really enjoyed it when I was like at work or like I was like driving and not really like when you're just kind of turning your brain off doing something else.
Yeah, it's
like,
not necessarily an
great.
album you go out of your way to listen to for like the lyrics or specific production, but yeah, it's a really good album to just kind of vibe to. Which I think we're getting a little, maybe we're overusing that word a little bit, but like people in general. But
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is
we're
it is a
guilty.
vibe record.
And I mean, I think to clarify, like I feel like for a while, vibey to me meant more like low key and chill, but it's really just
Yeah.
the right vibe. It has a strong, distinct vibe, and maybe to let everyone know before, I did check out those videos that you had suggested, the live
Yeah,
performances. If you'd like to share.
they do a series on YouTube called In the Open, where all 5 members of the band would go out together somewhere outside. Sometimes it'll be like at like a park or some type of like, by a mountain. Other times it's like somewhere random, like a football, field. And they'll usually do kind of more of a stripped back kind of acoustic version of the song. And they'll just do it live right there, with not really any special gear or anything. And they've done it for certain songs for almost all their albums now. And a lot of people sometimes will prefer those versions than the album versions. I think they're fun. I don't think they're necessarily better than the album versions, but I think they're really a cool listen.
Yeah, I think like one of the ones like it was cool hearing Art Exhibit because already in nature it's a little more acoustic sounding.
Yeah.
So that was cool. I also did really like the Something to Believe In version. Because there's a lot of chord changes and it kind of you kind of picked up different flavors.
Yeah. Some others don't work as well. Like Elsewhere, I don't think works nearly as good as it does on the album.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Or
Especially
even
because
America.
like when the line says dance club, like, or on the dance floor or whatever, and you got the
Yeah.
dance music going, it's it's hard to beat that.
Yeah. And going forward with this band, I do think this is the one you'd like the most out of all their albums. So I don't know if they'll make a return on this podcast in this form for album. But I don't know. I think down the road, if you were to give me another kind of maybe more mainstream, more pop, a little bit more stripped back, I could maybe give you one of their other albums. I think all their albums have really standout moments, but out of all their albums, this is the one I click with the most. This is the one I think that sounds the most cohesive with the sound that I prefer over some of their other sounds. So, but no, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yep. Thank you for the share.
Stay tuned at the very end of this episode, which is basically now, but stay tuned to hear my cover of Repeat from the album. And let us know in the comments if this is you've listened to before. Let us know how you enjoy this album, your favorite songs. And we will be back next week. Not quite sure yet what type of episode, but I think we're going to lean a little bit into a different kind of category of art, not just music. I think we're going to venture into some other platforms. So stick around till then.
Stick tuned.
And until then, we hope you take care and you'll be hearing from us soon. Bye-bye.
Somewhere in the forest where the waters meet lie the days before us, spinning on repeat. There's Darkness through the doorways, silence in the streets. There's something in the stillness, a distant memory. Show me love, fill my cup, the world's not empty. It's how you want it to be. Oh, push and pull, glass is full for our notion. We're caught up in emotion, so we move. We're just moving, we're just moving.